last week and put together some tips and tricks for report writing. So this is just to make that report writing process a little bit faster. We've kind of broken it down to during the assessment and then things that you can do while you're writing the report, and then just things to look for while you're editing your reports as well. So I'll start with during the assessment. So when you are actually administering your assessment, we would suggest that you analyze the RTIC data as you go and then record that at the top of the page. So, if you're noticing that they're consistently stopping S, then I would just put, S to D in the top corner, so that when I go back to write my report, I've already got some examples there, and I can kind of put that straight in. I would also do the same with your language data as well. So, if you're doing concepts and following directions and you're noticing that they're consistently getting zeros on questions that include before and after, I would just write before and after at the top of my page. Other things that you can do during the assessment, in the basic concepts part, do opposite of each item as well, so that you've got the opposites of each concept. And then during the RTIC screener, when you're doing the body parts section, you can do a quick OMA there. So that kind of makes the OMA process a little bit quicker too. So you can do funny faces, get them to open their mouth so you can have a look at their tonsils. At the beginning, as Beck suggested, get them to blow bubbles. And then at the end, have a look at them eating a jelly bean, and that should cover most of that information, unless there's something there that needs to be further investigated. So they're the things that would be helpful during the actual assessment. In terms of during your report writing, I would say, I covered some of this in my example of how to write a report as well. But the first thing that I would say is delete the things that you won't need straight away. So you're kind of working with a shorter document as well. Do your behaviour section as soon as time permits. I know we've talked about this lots of times, just so that you get the most accurate information, because once you do lots and lots of assessments, which you all have been doing, that kids start to blur into one. So it's better if you do that section as soon as you can. You don't always have to include the language content, language structure and memory scores. Only put them in if you need them. Less is more sometimes with background information, so if it's not relevant, don't include it. It's not going to kind of add to the report. When you're doing the language sections, I would say delete the earlier items of your double ups straight away. So if you're looking at spatial concepts, go to the ones that are expected of their age, and then delete the ones, spatial concepts under the headings that are younger, if that makes sense. And then copy that concept into each section of observed, inconsistent and not observed, and then delete the concepts as you're going. I hope that made sense. If not, please let me know and I'll explain it. If you have a behaviour section from another report that works for the child that you're writing the report for now, copy and paste it. Just make sure that you change names. There's no point rewriting it if it's going to be exactly the same. So copy and paste, but always make sure that you change the names. There's nothing worse than a parent getting a report and it's got another child's name in it. Copy and paste things that you need to work on in terms of like skills that weren't observed or inconsistent into the goals, and then you can delete it later on. I think this helps just because you don't have to keep scrolling up and down to write your goals list, because that's just a waste of time. Pick a section and allocate a certain amount of time to it. So make sure you're setting yourself achievable goals, obviously, but I think it helps to use your time more wisely. And then highlight the unfinished part so that you know exactly where you need to be when you come back to it later. Saves wasting time trying to figure out where you got up to the last time you were looking at it. If you know that a client is running 10 minutes late, pull your report out and add in the scores and write the behaviour section. Use that time that you have rather than, hanging around, which I'm guilty of, hanging around outside at the desk when, you don't have time to be doing that if you're sitting on a lot of reports to write. So use that time as much as you can. I would also say have the file ready so that it's sitting on your desk so that you can grab it at any time. So, if Carolyn yells out, you know, blah blah's running 10 minutes late, you can quickly grab that file and just get started straight away. Or if you have a last minute cancellation, you can just quickly grab it and get started rather than wasting time looking for it. If you're spending more than 20 minutes on one section, you need to ask yourself why you're spending so much time on it. So do you need to walk away and come back later? Is it just because you are not focusing? Or do you need to ask for help? I mean, you can ask anyone for help. Don't do things twice. So if you've put the information into a table, you don't need to write a description. So written expression, for example, you don't need to put achieved, developing, difficult into the table and then do the exact same thing underneath with observed, inconsistent, and not observed. Just do one or the other. Okay, so that was kind of all of the things that you can do during the actual report writing process. The next part would be when you're editing. So when you're editing reports, these are a few things that you can look for. So in the language skills sections, chunk your WH questions and chunk your following instructions items. It just makes it easier when you're going through it with a parent, and it makes it easier for the parent to understand. If you're constantly missing the same information from your reports when you go to write it, make sure you ask a specific question in your next assessment. So if you're constantly missing information about developmental milestones, make sure that in your next assessment you ask a specific question about developmental milestones. You know, if they're not sure and they can't remember them, maybe just ask them, you know, was it around the time that you'd expect or was it a little bit delayed? And then that at least gives you that information. Take out the age equivalent headings if you're not going to include an age equivalent. We keep it in there because some people use them. If you're not going to use the age equivalent, then make sure you take out the age equivalent heading, because parents are going to see age equivalent and then go looking for it, and then you haven't got one in there. So yeah, take that out if you're not going to include it. Double check your scores and tables. Always, I still do this. It's very easy to make a small mistake, so make sure you check them. With your performance descriptors, 16th percentile is borderline mild and under 30 is low average. So just remember those ones. I think they're the trickiest ones. They're a little bit confusing. If you're not too sure, I have performance descriptors stuck up on my wall. And I did right from the beginning, just so that it's, if I was unsure about something, rather than just having a guess, I would look at it straight away and know that I wasn't going to have to fix that up later. So it saves yourself time. Try as much as you can to not have tables split across pages. I know sometimes that speech sound table can get quite big with your severe kids, so sometimes it's unavoidable, but try as much as you can to not have them split across pages. And then just make sure that the information that you're using from the template, so in your behaviour section particularly, make sure that the paragraph that you're using actually matches the child that you're talking about, and that you don't include paragraphs that contradict one another as well. That was it. I'm sure other people have tips and tricks as well, so if you have anything extra that you'd like to do that we've missed, put it in a comment below, and this should hopefully help to speed up the report writing process. Thanks, bye.